If your baby has been diagnosed with HIE and now doctors are mentioning a potential subsequent CP diagnosis, one of the first questions that many parents ask when they're faced with something like this is, did something go wrong during labor and delivery? And that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video this morning, because in my office, a lot of the cases that we handle, there are two major areas that come up again and again when we're investigating these as birth injury lawyers. And one of them is the way that the fetal heart monitor was read and managed during labor. And the second one is how the Pitocin dosage was managed. Let's start with the monitor. Electronic fetal heart monitoring is supposed to give the medical team a real-time picture of how your baby was tolerating labor. It tracks the baby's heart rate and how it reacts to those contractions. The goal is to catch signs of distress early so doctors and nurses can step in and protect the baby when issues come or issues arise. But what happens when those warning signs are missed, or worse yet, they're not taken seriously? In one of the cases that we're handling right now, the fetal monitor, it clearly showed that the baby was in trouble and needed help. There were repeated late decelerations. We had minimal variability and eventually fetal tachycardia. And these were not brief episodes. These patterns, they went on for hours. And despite what the monitor was showing, the Pitocin kept running. And the contractions, they just kept coming. And no one intervened the way that they should have. Over time, the baby's oxygen reserves, they just begin to run out. The fetal tachycardia, which had been hanging on for a while, eventually crashed into bradycardia. And that's when the baby's heart rate drops dangerously low. By that point, the baby had nothing left to give. The reserves were gone and the brain was unprotected. Now that baby has been diagnosed with HIE and has a CP diagnosis. This kind of situation, it can be heartbreaking for families. And it's not about looking back with perfect vision. These are patterns that trained medical professionals are expected to catch in the moment. The monitor is a tool, but if no one acts on what the monitor is showing, it just becomes another machine in the room with mom and the baby. Let's talk about Pitocin. Pitocin is a drug used to make contractions stronger and more frequent. And in the right situation and in the right hands, it can be helpful, but it has to be used correctly. When Pitocin is increased too aggressively, or when it's not turned down or turned off when the baby is showing signs of distress, it can make a bad situation even worse. Too much Pitocin can cause contractions to come too fast, one right after another, without giving the baby time to recover in between. And that's called uterine tachycystole. And when that's happening at the same time as signs of fetal distress, the risk of serious injury to the baby, it arises. And this is why the Pitocin dosage and the fetal heart monitor, they have to be watched together. One can affect the other. And in cases like what I mentioned to you earlier that we're working through right now, the failure to manage both can lead to tragic and bad outcomes. After an injury like this, families are often left with more questions than answers. And that's where the medical records, where they come in. When we investigate these cases, we work with medical experts who are going to review the fetal monitoring strips, the nursing notes, the Pitocin dosage records, and every other part of the record that has been documented during labor and delivery. They're looking at whether the standard of care was followed, whether the baby's injury could have been prevented, and how this injury is going to affect that child long-term into the future. And these experts, they aren't just giving opinions. They're using the hospital's own records, the same ones that the medical team was relying on minute by minute during your labor and delivery. So if you were told that everything is fine, was fine during labor, but something inside you is saying none of this is adding up, it's okay to ask whether something was missed. Sometimes everything truly was done right and the baby can have an injury. But sometimes the signs were there for hours and no one acted. Again, I'm Marcus Boston. And if you have any other questions about your baby's HIE, brain injury at birth, or subsequent CP diagnosis, from a medical legal standpoint, don't hesitate to reach out and contact me. You can find out more information about me in my profile. You can find out more information about me there. If you're watching this video on certain types of apps, you can send me a DM and we can chat a little bit about your baby story. Or you can just wait and watch the picture that follows the end of this video. All right, that's going to be it for this morning's quick educational video. Have a great day, everybody.